Race to world first after dark. With Veyloris
and Kams.
I'm never going to get over the fact that we have an intro song.
I know. It feels prestigious. A small club.
Like, way more than we deserve.
Oh, yeah.
Some scholars may argue.
We're treated well.
We are treated so well. It is true what they say. We are, in fact, the best music. You know that. Well, I have nothing. I was hoping you were going to say funny Cam singer, but too early, I guess.
Oh. We the best.
Nice, we got that. Cool. Well, welcome to the night show. Tonight, we are going to be talking about gold, guap, cheddar, cheese. I don't know. It goes by many words. But in World of Warcraft, it's best known as gold, money, also cheddar and guap. I mean, we call it basically everything you would call normal money. Ooh, a little coin. Kams, I don't know. Before we hop into this, what do you think? What do you think about WoW? Like gold? Are you are you a rich person in WoW typically,
No.
or are you one of those like, hey, could I borrow money for my enchants?
No, I don't borrow, but I just collect from sales, and it kind of builds up over the years, and that's about it.
Before sales, were you poor?
No, not really. Just
What'd you do for gold?
mid. Just the basic sold stuff at the beginning of the expansion.
That is a powerful technique, and something I'm probably going to be talking about a lot tonight is timing, because I think there's a lot of different types of value, and this is kind of like a business schooly thing, right? There's time value, there's place value, and those I think are really the two things that I found to be the most contributory to WoW. Mostly time value, really. So first, I want to talk about the WoW token, because I think the WoW token is very interesting. So we're going to take a look at basically the cost of tokens over the years and how that's affected by some things, and look at some of the principles of what drives the cost of WoW tokens, and then sort of talk about that in the context of things you can do to make money, because it's all connected. And really this is my call to break dependence on the WoW token, because it is horrifying to me that people just like repeatedly just like buy WoW tokens to sell for all of their gold. Like, please stop doing that. That's horrifying.
Yeah, I've stayed away mostly from the WoW tokens. When they first came out, I bought a bunch, and I should have bought more and just bought game time and didn't pay for the game for like 4 years. That was pretty nice.
That is yeah, and also we have chat, which is why I'm being momentarily distracted by somebody saying that they use the time-honored tradition of becoming somebody's girlfriend or pretending to be somebody's girlfriend on WoW to get gold. I mean, that worked. I mean, I'm married, and I've probably spent more gold on my wife than I have on myself in WoW. So yeah, no, I
Beautiful.
Yeah, I'll admit that does probably work more often than not. But I'm going to be looking at chat tonight. So I mean, if you have particular questions on, I don't know, how you could be making gold in some specific context or whatever, this is a conversation between us, chat. But here is the graph, the token cost over time. Now we're going to zoom into each of these expansions just a little bit, but I did want to show you guys kind of the big picture. This is just very, very simple. The WoW token came out in April of 2015, and it was extremely flat for quite a while, and we'll be looking at some of the things that drove that price up over time, and then again kind of how that works into actually making money. But I just think this is a very interesting graph, because the interesting thing about the WoW token is that the price is automatically set by WoW, by WoW and by Blizzard, and they have an algorithm that sets it based on supply and demand. Now, the interesting thing is that because of that, if there's 100 people selling and 100 people buying, the price stays the same. It doesn't matter if it's 100 people selling, 100 people buying, or 1 million people buying, 1 million people selling. What this graph shows is, in fact, not the interest in WoW per se, not the number of people playing WoW, but the change in the number of people playing WoW. So if the price goes up, that means, generally speaking, more people are interested in buying a token than there are in selling it, which means that usually there is some amount of abundance in gold, or more people are coming back to the game. There's a lot of different things here, but we'll talk about it. Selling a Mythic Mail BOE socket, you should put it in our Discord. We actually might want that. If it's boots, we probably want it. But let's hop into the first graphic here, zooming in a little bit second graphic here, zooming a little bit into Warlords of Draenor. Now,
I'm impressed with this.
Thank you.
The presentation. This is More than I expected. Not.
Okay.
I mean, you're zooming in. And I don't even know how you got this stuff.
It's just.
I thought you were just going to be kind of like looking at forum numbers or something.
No. Although there is something interesting to be talked about graphing this over the WoW population, but it's also, functionally we're talking about economics here, and so it gets very complicated very, very quickly. Prices do get super high right before an X pack, but there are more interesting points that it actually gets high. So right here, this is where. So this is Warlords of Draenor, right? So I believe it was April 14th or something like that, April 17th or something, that it actually started. And the price was decently stable throughout all of WoD, which is kind of interesting because a lot of, thank you, Andrew. Kams flaming me more than you expected.
What's Andrew saying?
He said, glad to find out how highly Kams thinks of
well, spell
Veyloris.
it right, okay?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's actually true. Yeah, flame him back. Nice. Shots fired. But as you can see, the price was actually relatively stable over the course of WoD. I mean, given the propensity for people to talk about WoD as the point where inflation really hit the hardest. Certainly there was a lot of gold generated through garrisons, but I do think it's interesting that the WoW token actually stayed relatively cheap over the course of that expansion. I mean, with the amount of gold being kind of printed out, I would be very interested to see the number of people buying tokens to actually sell. Given how cheap they stayed, I think more than likely a lot of people were buying tokens, or selling tokens, I suppose is probably the right way to put it, which is to say putting $20 in to get gold back.
Okay, so how is a token made?
So a token is just made when you literally buy it from the shop for $20.
And it just makes one?
Yeah, and then you sell it.
And then it's used and it's deleted.
Yes.
Burned. Minted and burned.
Minted and burned, correct. Yeah, so the way it works is basically a player just takes $20, they buy it from the shop, they sell it on the auction house, and another player gives them gold to have it, and then the player who bought it then can right-click it. They can either add $15 to their Battle.net balance, or they can add a month of game time. Now, astute viewers may notice that Blizzard just makes a cool $5 off on that because somebody bought something for $20 for $15 of value, but ignore that. That's fine. That's not what we're focusing on today, even though it gives me the heebie-jeebies to think of the fact that that's how that works. And they said it's just... We'll see, and they say it's to prevent speculation, because otherwise you could technically buy tokens when they're cheap, sell them for gold, and then when they get more expensive, you could sell them and you could make gold if it was the same price. But I can't help but notice that their solution also happens to make them a lot of money.
Yeah. And when they haven't raised sub prices ever, so that tricky.
That is actually fair. Because if you plot WoW's sub price against inflation, it loses out quite a lot. But also, to be fair, the cost of hosting a server and all of that has gone down considerably. And at one point, WoW's costs, overhead costs, would have been much higher than they are now. Is dancing on mailboxes still an effective way to make gold? It certainly can be. I mean, I look at service-based things like that as generally being kind of not. I mean, I know this is mostly a joke, but there's a lot of things you can do to make gold in WoW, and that's one of those things where I don't think it scales very well. I don't think farming typically scales very well in terms of making gold. So a lot of what I'm going to be talking about is focusing in on auction house stuff. Anyway, we can jump ahead to the next expansion to what came after WoD? Legion. Bang, easy. Now. In Legion is really when you saw the WoW token go righteously expensive. Money isn't real. Oh, I guess we can just cancel the whole segment. Huh. All right. Anyway,
are my eyes real?
Are your eyes real? All right, don't cut to me, production. I'm walking close to the screen so I can actually see these dates because we're kind of far from it. So I think the interesting thing here in Legion, besides the prices going up, is you can actually see the WoW token actually started to pick up a lot in popularity. And part of this is actually nothing to do with WoW. It's a lot to do with what was getting added to the Battle.net shop at the time. So over the course of Legion is really when you started to see them develop the shop as a thing for people to for people to buy other games, right? So over the course of Legion, you started being able to buy Overwatch. You started being able to buy different games. And, you can see that huge spike right there on January 30th of 2018, where over the course of a week, the token gets like 25K more expensive on the back of BFA pre-orders opening up. And so I think the biggest part of this that I want to emphasize to people is and it seems obvious, but anticipatory buying is pretty important when it comes to making money. Anticipating demand and all of that is important.
Buy the rumor.
Buy the rumor. Yeah. Buy the rumor. Sell the, what is it?
Sell the news.
Sell the news. That's the one. So, over the course of Legion, it got expensive. I think that's when you started to see a lot of the WAD gold making stuff kind of get out of control, because you can continue doing your WAD garrison all the way through Legion at that point, and you're making crazy amount of money. WoW did not come out in 2006, guys. 2004. Come on, bangers. Although one of our segments, I think I might switch to doing WoW this day in history kind of stuff, so we can talk a lot of right. There's a lot of neat stuff. There's a lot of WoW stuff. But yeah, anyway, WoW tokens got very expensive over the course of Legion, and I think there was. I know I personally don't buy these tokens all that much, but it emphasizes just buy stuff early. Like you said, buy the rumor. We can jump ahead to BFA and take a look at the price over this. And BFA was extremely tumultuous in price. So coming off of Legion, the price actually dipped down quite a bit. And in part, that's just because BFA was an expensive expansion to raid in. This is when you started to see some really aggressive anti-inflationary measures from Blizzard, the Fed, the Bed. I don't know what we have to call them, but you've got to have Blizzard actually does very minor, silly monetary policy. But, this is when the Brutosaur went in the game. There was some very minor things in Legion, but going into BFA, right, they nerfed garrison gold making, or I think they even nerfed that towards the end of Legion, which cut off a serious amount of money supply. And then they also added the Brutosaur, which is a serious, interesting thing that they, people bought that, and that's 5 million gold just straight out of the economy. There's a lot of those mounts in the US.
And so would that make the price go down?
That would make the price go down because people will spend a bunch of gold to basically people will spend a bunch of money to get gold so they can buy a Brutosaur is kind of the idea here. And the more people who need gold, which is to say the greater the demand there is for gold, the cheaper the WoW token gets, because it means that more people want gold and they are willing to get a worse rate dollar per gold spent because they want that gold so bad. So BFA was in generally just kind of expensive, and people were having to, for example, pay $1 bajillion to reroll their Azerite gear because they actually wanted to play alts. People wanted to buy their Brutosaur. People wanted to, do all of these things that happened at the start of the expansion. It was also a very big BOE patch at the start of Uldir, and people kind of forget that the auction house fee actually eats up quite a bit of money. 10% of every auction house of every sale actually goes ahead and eats it all up. So you lose for every sale. Just 10% of gold just disappears in a Blizzard's virtual wallet. They should add the age mount to the shop. I don't know how I feel about that, but I do wish that they would add it back to the black market auction house.
It's not even on the BMH?
No, not anymore. It hasn't spawned in less than 18 months.
It used to be?
It used to be. Up until literally a month before Sanctum of Domination. I don't know why it stopped.
Weird.
It's annoying. But yeah, 10%. And then it's even more on the neutral auction house, which is 15% or 20 or something, which is, I don't know, interesting part. Tide Spray Linen Pants Vendor Shuffle. I actually don't think I'm familiar with that one.
So basically what I'm getting is if you want to buy real life items like a game or I guess a shop mount, anything that's you would just straight pay dollars for, price goes up.
Yep.
Anything you want to buy with gold, price goes down.
Yep. That's exactly right. Yeah. Which is kind of the point here, just anticipating that. Oh, it started showing back up with 9.2. Oh, great. Okay. Well, I need to get a gold cap and buy one. I didn't buy it back in BFA because I was I have 3 accounts. What would I possibly want a Brutosaur for? I always have a character near an auction house. And that's true, but also logging into an account is not as convenient as just mounting up. So, yeah.
I love it. I waited till the end because I was do I really want this thing? And I was yeah, it's going away. I'll get it. I love it. I'm sorry. I'm going to to rub it in, but
I know it does get gold capped instantly, but you know there are ways to continue to achieve this. I will get it at some point. AH cut is 5%. Yeah, I think it's 5% and then maybe 15 for neutral. But either way, it's money leaving. I mean, technically, the auction house is probably one of the strongest anti-inflationary tools because it's one of the few that scales with the amount of money being spent. So you know, back in the day, vendors actually ate up a significant amount, and repairs too ate up a significant amount of gold. But as the numbers increased over time, you know, like spending even 1,000 gold to repair your gear is not proportionally as much of the economy as spending 50 silver was to do it back in the day.
Yeah. I'm assuming they're having a hard time balancing this because it's some sort of law of nature that everything just trickles to the top. And so they can't, how do they pull it out of the average player? It's all just pooled somewhere else and not in the average player's pocket.
Yeah, kind of. They also really ruined themselves with... So you've got the interesting thing I think about WoW is that every single time a piece of gold shows up, it came from basically one of two places, right? It either came from a quest reward or it came from being dropped from a humanoid enemy, right? Or you sold it to a vendor, right? Like those are basically like the three places it could come from for a very long time, which is kind of neat because every piece of like copper in the game kind of has a story, right? Like somebody actually looted something, except for all of the gold that came from garrisons. And so the money supply went crazy wild and WOD throughout like a decent amount of Legion, people just making tons and tons and tons of money from their garrison, literally just essentially printing quest rewards. You can think of it that way. Do you think that money is based or cringe? Now that is a great question. Based or cringe, Cam? I think money's based.
Based, yeah.
Based, yeah. Money's based. Yeah.
Be too hard without it. I can't figure the math on like sheep for apples or whatever. I mean, how...
Oh, like for bartering.
Yeah. I mean, how are you supposed to know how much an apple's supposed to cost? Who figures that out?
Anyway, moving on to the Shadowlands graph. I have no idea. I don't know. I have no response.
The power of markets.
Power of markets, man. It's a medium of transfer. And just looking at the WoW token over the course of Shadowlands, I think this data goes up through March 10th is the last week I pulled. You can see that Shadowlands, the WoW token stayed relatively stable. It dropped very much at the start, and that's a pattern you'll see that around each of these expansions coming out. Typically, you'll see people. They need in-game stuff. So the price of the token drops because they spend $20 to get their in-game gold so that they can buy their legendary, right? You can see that really bad right now. Legendary items are crazy expensive. Look at that dip right over all the way on the far right of the graph. People are buying tokens so that they can get gold and buy their legendary items. You can see the same thing going around patch 9.1. It's the same thing right around the start of the expansion. Same thing. People just, Kams causes inflation. Yeah, explain. What do you mean? What did you mean by that? Actually, don't explain. You'll get banned. It's not good. Anyway, let's talk about gold making.
I'm kind of surprised. Sorry to
No,
cut you
go for
off.
it. Yeah, no, anything you've got.
I mean, maybe I'm just in a privileged position, but $20 for 200K does not seem worth it.
You are. You are in a privileged position because I said the same thing when I started raiding again in like a not like super top end guild. I was just like, people are just like, oh man, 50K. Because to me that's just like, I don't know. It's been a while since I've like thought about that as like a quantity that like, dang, I gotta be careful, because you and I have done sales forever. Like, I mean, it's for 3 or 4 expansions now that it's like we've been doing sales. But in the absence of sales, how do you afford the game? And it's like, I mean, it's hard to find time to grind for gold because grinding is very, very, very wild in terms of efficiency. And also, it's like the numbers you're getting are really small. I mean, it's like at one point, talking about like 2 or 3K an hour was great, but like 2 or 3K an hour, dude, can you imagine spending, grinding out 2 or 3K, even 10K an hour for 150K? Like it's bad. It's definitely not like, I don't know. It's not great. Grinding is bad. And if you aren't, actively making gold, the game bleeds you dry pretty well, which is a bummer. And
do you know why it's like plateauing at about 200K? Because that's like kind of its peak.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, I think that's a larger scale economics question. I mean, that's just what people, for whatever reason, that is where people just find the value breakpoint, right? Where it's like at 200K gold, people think that is reasonable. $1 per 10K gold is basically the rate that people are saying is fine. And so when the number hits that, people are just like, yeah, let's just sell it. And yeah, Nikasaur, I mean, you are not alone in that. When you need to clinch a purchase, yeah, you token for sure. I mean, it's a super common thing, and that's something I would love for everybody to avoid for the rest of time. The WoW token, I have not despised, because it's necessary and I'm fine with it, and it definitely it is a supply side solution to gold selling, which is great because gold sellers do a lot of things to ruin games. Yeah. And that's part of the reason why gold selling was so rampant on WoW Classic and continues to be rampant on WoW Classic, is because people buy gold, because people have always wanted to buy gold, because, WoW's population has gotten older, because, this is an old game at this point, and, most people have jobs and are successful in real life. And when you're successful in real life, you have real money. And so you're like, yeah, sure, $20 for 200K, whatever, that's fine. Which puts gold sellers out of business, because most adults are not going to want to take the risk. It's, it's a good risk tolerance thing where it's like, sure, maybe it's slightly more expensive, but yeah, I don't care. I'll do it the legit way and I'll buy it. But in, Classic, there's nothing, that's not an option, right? Mm-hmm. All you can do is just you either buy gold or farm gold. And as you know, if you've played Classic is very expensive. There's a bajillion consumables and all of that kind of thing. So talking a little bit about how to actually make gold, I think the biggest thing that I was talking about with patches is, first of all, like, buying preemptively. So if you go to the theunderminejournal.com or just Google the Undermine Journal, that is easily the best resource you have. You can start to identify basic patterns in how mats cost, right? I personally am a huge crafter. I like crafting to do it, because you have to think about every single time that you craft an item, you are adding value to the process. So with few exceptions, if you hit craft, what you are selling is worth more than what you are making, or more than the inputs, which I don't think a lot of people like really appreciate how amazing that is about WoW. That almost no matter what, if you go to the auction house and you buy the materials and then you put them into an item and then you sell it, you will probably be making some amount of gold. And the reason for that is because people are super, super lazy, because they don't want to do it themselves. And so
put in the time, and as we all know, time is money. The goblins teach us this.
Exactly. So for me, I spent a lot of time, like, when I was working on making a bunch of gold, I'd be working on school stuff and all of this, and I would just be setting up like 40-minute crafts or whatever. It's just like a bunch of, not disenchants, because disenchanting is insanely tedious in WoW, but also for that reason makes a crazy amount of gold. Historically speaking, disenchant shuffles, where you're crafting an item, like in Legion. This is like all I did. Legion and BFA made just insane amounts of money sitting there. And basically, you would craft a whole bunch of those blue bracers. They could proc to purple, and the purples would disenchant for crystals. And so my pathway there was, you would craft it, you'd disenchant the blues, and then you'd turn the purples and the blues into enchants, and then you'd sell the enchants. And because of the way that works, you are putting an input in, you're crafting, then you're disenchanting, and then you're crafting again. And basically at each one of those steps, you're adding value. And most importantly, if you pay attention to when you're buying mats, which is to say, usually you want to buy on the weekends. You want to identify on your server when, because there are people on your server who farm, right, who go and do herbs. You want to find, if you can, who those people are and talk to them directly and just buy from them consistently, and skip the middleman on the auction house, and get better prices in general, or realize like, oh, it's like every Sunday, herbs or whatever, or leather is super cheap on my server. That's when you want to buy it. And then you want to sell at the height of the market. So on a Tuesday night, dude, Tuesdays used to be bonkers. Like, in Legion, I used to, it's like you'd be selling like 1 million or 2 million gold, even on a relatively small server, like literally every couple hours. Just people buying flasks for raid night and all of that. So you buy herbs at their cheapest, sell flasks at their most expensive, and not only are you making money just, at a baseline, you're also just selling at the top of the market. So like if you were to buy stuff to craft on Tuesday, the profit would be minimal, but because you're buying it on a Sunday when it's at its bottom, and usually flasks are cheaper then, you're making a ton of money.
This is an angle I have never thought of. You're blowing my mind.
I mean, and I
thought it was always just like they're about the same price all the time, and they slowly go down, or then a patch comes out and they go up, but I did not think about this amount of micromanagement.
Yeah, I mean,
Listen.
and it's funny because it's like this can also save you money, because it's like with the forethought of like, I'm just going to have flasks in my bag, I'm going to buy them over the weekend rather than buy them on a Tuesday. You are functionally making yourself that money, right? Because you're saving yourself the money that you'd be spending on Tuesday. So even if you don't want to go through the trouble of crafting, just buy at a smart time, right? I think the funniest thing that happened this patch on Illidan is if you go to the Undermine Journal and look at Progenitor Essentia, right? So that's like the legendary item from Zereth Mortis, right? Now it's starting to drop like hotcakes now from the raid and all of that, when we're doing a billion splits, getting it off bosses, etc. But for the first week, before the raid was open, it was like 15k on Illidan. It was like 40k when people started crafting legendaries, because nobody had the patterns to craft it yet. So it was super cheap and people were just selling it to get rid of it. So if you were to just have bought your mats, like I flipped a ton of stuff, with guild money and just bought BOEs with it. But if you just buy a bunch of Progenitor Essentia and then sold it, which is the most predictable thing in the world, right? You just think like a week from now, what am I going to be spending my money on? Legendary patterns. What is an input to legendary patterns? So you see this with the essences from Inscription. You see this with the Progenitor Essentia, which is the zone drop. You see this with leather. You see this with all kind of stuff. If you just speculate a little bit, whether you're wanting to craft and take advantage, sell the raw materials and take advantage, or just save yourself the money, that is how you avoid WoW tokens. Is it's generally with like a little bit of forethought. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Identifying those kind of basic cyclical patterns, because WoW is an extremely cyclical game. Because you got to think about it like WoW is. It's just a bunch of people like you, right? Like the aggregate of the economy is 2,000 Kams on a server. So other people aren't so different from you. So if you just take a step back and be like, okay, what are my habits? You can start to identify like, okay, in the aggregate, how am I acting? And how do I take advantage of exactly, lazy, but how do you take advantage of that laziness? It's like, okay, well, the average Kams is going to be buying on a Tuesday. So price is going to be high on a Tuesday. So when do I not think to buy flasks? Just buy them on a Saturday or a Sunday, after the raid week's over. And very easy money.
And everybody watching this, they all paid for the seminar, correct?
Dude, that'd be I don't have a WoW seminar, but that'd be awesome. I like the gold. What's the journal thing you mentioned? It's called the Undermine Journal. It's maintained, I believe, by the same people who do TSM now, but it's an amazing tool. You can basically just look at like the weekly price, and this is what you can this is what you can use to identify the server patterns on your server, right? Just like take a look at the weekly price. It literally shows it, cyclical over the course of 3 weeks. And you just take a look at like, okay, well, it looks like every week, there's the cycle. It literally looks like a sinusoid, and that's basically it. Conquistador. I love Twitch chat. Conquistador. Yes, nice. Thank you for showing up. Yes, farming mats is usually a mess. I would not recommend it for making gold. It's generally inefficient, and brain-wise, it requires just a lot more attention. Undermine Journal shows the 3-day price and 14 price medians for the region. It does. If you scroll down, there's a lot of graphs, and I think the graphs are typically more useful. If you're just joining from Liquid Maximums raid, where we're talking about gold making in WoW. We just discussed all the WoW token stuff, the cost over the years, and we're just attempting to, talk through some of the basics of gold making. What if you play in a region without Blizzard API access? Wow, and just to review really quickly, this is the token cost over time. We were just talking about, when the price increases, which, this graph sort of outlines what I would call the basics of wanting to make gold. What you can't see on the larger zoom out is, like when expansions are released, when other games are released. If you look at the release of Call of Duty games against the graph of the token cost usually has an appreciable, minimum 3%, sometimes as high as 15% for like that Modern Warfare one in 2016, the first COD game that came out after the WoW token. The price went up a ton because everybody's like, oh wait, I could just I could just buy a bunch of WoW tokens, add BattleNet balance, and then buy Call of Duty. Yeah, that's great. You make a ton of money. And Kams, going back a little bit to what you talked about, at the start of the expansion, you sell a bunch of stuff at the start of the expansion. That's a great idea. Like, looking at your server as an aggregate of yourself is a great thing. What do you usually want to be doing at the start of an expansion? It's just like dungeons or raiding or PvP or battling, which is to say, at the start of an expansion, generally you're consuming. That's all you're doing. You're running on your savings. You're just wanting to go out and battle and do stuff, which is why you really want to be, crafting at that point, which is not for everybody, I understand. And, there's some interesting stuff. Yeah, I'm not sure that I may have messed up the dates. The years don't matter. You get time's an illusion. Money's not real. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. The chart's real, though. It looks like... So, well, we don't know if it'll go that low again. 100K. That seems like a good price to buy near.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, if you're just talking about pure speculation... Shadowlands came out in 2008. Yeah, exactly right, Nevik. Near 100K is a great price to buy. I mean, right now it's I think 165 or so, which is like not even too bad. No. And if you're super bullish on WoW and you're like, dang, the next expansion is going to be great, and you're like, or if you're even thinking to yourself like, dude, I am definitely going to pre-order the next expansion, and the announcement came out that like, oh, hey, April 16th, everybody's going to be, the pre-order is going to be available or whatever. Just buy it now, or wait a couple of weeks for the patch to cool down. The token will probably hit like, 145, 150 or something. You buy your tokens rather than doing it on launch day, because on launch day for the pre-release, everybody's going to be buying.
Because if you're like me, you're lazy, and if you're lazy, you procrastinate, and you just do it right when you have to.
Yep. Correct.
And you get squeezed.
Won't the token drop again when Double Lego comes out? Yeah, probably. If I were... I would probably be buying it like April 15th, like honestly, like literally the day before the announcement. Like nobody's thinking about like, hey, as the moment that the game gets hyped, the moment the pre-orders open, and it's conceivable that pre-orders open in April, because I think the tinfoil, if you're unaware, is that the expansion's coming out later this year, like December or something, which I don't know how I feel about that. I'm not going to get too into it, but that's the tinfoil that I've heard, at least. Mm-hmm. Then it's very reasonable that the expansion or the pre-release would be 7 months before that. That's usually that kind of range. So it's possible that we're going to have pre-releases open, the 16th, and the WoW token will jump way up. And of course, you can wait. I mean, it's like usually that day one hype dies down. So I would either do it now or just wait until the summer, like way over the summer when people don't, Although... That's the other interesting thing. When the game goes into lulls, typically the price of the token goes up, right? Like over the summer, in a long farm period, the token price goes up because people are doing sales. A lot of people are doing sales. And so people like you who are doing sales are sitting there and you're like, okay, well, I want to keep my accounts active. You have a ton of gold. You don't care if it costs 200K gold or something like that. And people who buy sales and aren't, in a raiding guild and wanting to consistently play, they get their mount and then they quit. Whereas, you and I, we have our accounts active all summer and we're just buying tokens, and the price slowly gets kind of driven up as you get closer to an expansion usually.
We need to get you one of those buttons, buy.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. We really need to get ridiculous with this. Am I talking about token flipping? No, I don't think token flipping is typically great.
Is that just because of the $5?
Yeah, and also like... The margin, like the price change you need to do is wild. No, I'm telling you not to spend real money on tokens to make WoW gold. That is dreadful. I don't want it. I don't want you to do that. I would love it if nobody ever bought a WoW token again. I'm a huge anti-WoW token, to be honest. And yeah, tokens absolutely vary based on time of day. Really good observation there. Yeah, buying at different times of the day and by day of the week and by time of the year. There's a lot of minor cyclical patterns that you can absolutely map to.
And so what are the major gold sinks right now? They don't have a big mount like the Longboy. There's the legendary items.
You got to think about the BMAH.
Okay.
Because so remember, anything that goes through the auction house, the gold sink is only 10% or 5% of that from the auction house cut, which is not nothing, but it's also kind of minor. But you compare that to the BMAH, where usually on a server. Man, that's a great question. I wish I had the data on this, actually.
Just how much gold goes into the black market?
Yeah, well, I mean, you can think about it in the simplest terms, right? There are certain mounts that get instantly gold capped every single time they come up, which means that there is probably daily a gold cap just disappearing from existence because the BMH goes to Blizzard. So,
do you think they could ever get it like under control? I mean, I guess on the token at least, I don't know the gold supply. It's probably an impossible statistic to find, but how it kept hitting the 200K.
Yeah.
Do you think they could ever like slowly start bringing it down and like get the number of gold under control?
Oh, I think so. I mean, I think they succeeded in that. Can we bring up the large scale graphic again of tokens over the years? Gold cap Suge is 10 million gold right now. So I actually think they did a really good job of that through BFA. I mean, you can see the way that the token just drops off.
And that's just Azerite armor and
Azerite armor and Brutosaur. I mean, as soon as the Brutosaur went into the game, I mean that was like huge. And also.
Million?
Yeah, 5 million.
Yeah, that's the most I've like. That's like half my gold, and I've never spent anywhere. Like I didn't buy the spider was like $1 million or something. I was just like nah, but they got me with that auction house.
They got you with the auction house,
which is taking more of my gold.
Exactly. Yes. The WAD gold supply really. I mean, basically all of that jump from 50K up to 200K at the end of Legion was essentially just like that was all. That was all WAD.
Can we see COVID on here somehow?
Oh. Can we go to the Shadowlands specific graph?
Like, do real world events have an effect on these charts?
I mean,
they must have some effect.
I guess it would be at the end of. It was at the end of. Wait, Shadowlands came out in. Yeah, so it would have been the end of BFA. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like Nyalotha, right?
Yeah.
Because it was like right, we were doing an event.
Yeah, right. Because we literally like a month after the event ended was COVID. Can we look at the BFA graph? Sorry, I'm keeping them on this. Yeah, Kams is the big brain, dude. I'm
just here learning. This is fascinating me.
So yeah, I mean you can kind of see it, right?
Where it starts dropping.
That's hard to say. It's hard to attribute, and it's so it's very, very hard to make like a causal link there. Yeah, I mean you can see it. So that dip that's to the right of like 2020 right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's like just about halfway through 2020. I mean that's probably about where it is. Classic had an impact on token gold as well. Yeah, totally. You'd think it would rise, and it does rise over the summer. I don't think I see it so much. Yeah, I don't think you can see it. Turns into a statistics 402. Dude, this is I think like 200 maybe, but I think the interesting thing here is mostly the increase that went on at the start of 2021. I'm not actually entirely sure what I would attribute that to. It's right around February. It was going on February of last year.
Okay, wait, I'm forgetting. If it's going up, it means we want things like Destiny and Overwatch.
Yes. Price. The price of the token going up means that people are buying the token, which means that either people are playing the game or people want WoW balance.
I'm not sure what was around then. I'd have to go look at like an Activision Blizzard kind of release schedule or something.
Let's see. Oh, Burning Crusade.
Oh.
Yeah. You didn't have to buy BC though, did you? I guess it could have been people resubbing for it.
You got that mount, the /SPIT one.
Supply and demand is messy. Yeah, definitely. Middle of Nathra. Yes, that's what I'm saying, Dope. Is like that's just a weird time for the price to start spiking. Yeah, the coloring is like a little bit off. Let the token go up.
TBC had a level boost.
Oh,
I could see paying for that.
Yeah,
that's something I would definitely do.
I'll bet you that's it. Actually, that sounds right. Yeah. And I mean, like, all of these are decent ideas. I mean, it's like, okay, yeah, this did actually turn into like a stat or like an Econ 201 or something. Because I mean, it's like it's hard to attribute exactly what those rises are to. But you know, you can kind of talk about the things it could be and the things that it probably is, but ultimately there are so many, interfacing, because like there's somebody in chat saying like, oh, let this go up, so that I can, sell you a token, right? Because they want to sell it for 250k gold. And there's also people who are just like, I just want to keep my WoW sub active, right? And these are just competing forces. And then there's people who are like, well, I don't play WoW anymore, but I have 1 million gold and I want the token to drop so that I can, sell a bunch of tokens or buy a bunch of tokens or whatever, and buy other games. So it's there's a lot of things. Wasn't that when you could buy high item level corruption pieces on the auction house? Yeah, I mean that was like infinite stars and all of that. So 5% of that would be leaving. Is the price mainly affected by buyers or the sellers? It's both, right? So WoW actually sets the price algorithmically. I don't think we actually know what that exactly is, but basically when there are more people, actually, yeah, it is kind of like a centralized crypto. Oh, I hate that. WoW token, the original NFT. They're all serialized, man. They're all just different WoW tokens.
Yep, mint them. I mean, I know this... crypto is a weird thing. Do you think WoW lasts long enough that this gets kind of blockchained and a little more, I guess that makes it like more rigid? You can't really dupe gold at that point. I don't know how it would be created and everything, but
I don't know. Dude, I don't know. That's a messed up question. I got nothing for that.
Is my mount going to be an NFT?
I don't know. I hope not. WoW token was obviously impacted by inflation. That could also be it. Who knows? You could, and it's kind of oh no, no, stop buying WoW tokens, please, Andrew. How long do you think the race world first would take without WoW tokens? I don't think it meaningfully affects it. We don't require. We don't require WoW tokens for
I don't think any of the
race.
Gold has gone through WoW tokens. It's all sales and loans.
No, yeah, it's all earned or paid back in some way or another one.
And I believe Max sold his car. It was just the one time though.
Just that was for fun. That was satire. Also, yeah, how weird is it, Versher, that Nikasor just like hangs out in the Race to World First chat? It's very, very weird. The price is mainly set by demand because the price would only affect sellers by enticing them. It depends on the perspective. You can argue it either way. You can absolutely argue it either way, which is why it's so hard to do. And yeah, people do buy WoW tokens for sales, but also that gold exists in the economy one way or another. So I mean, you can the biggest argument that you can make is that the WoW token increases the velocity of money, which is to say the average gold moves hands more frequently because there is a reason for ultra wealthy people to spend gold in a way that doesn't just leave the system. Because a lot of people who spend gold and are ultra, they sit on like a bunch of caps or whatever, they don't have anything to spend besides like vendor mounts. And a WoW token does actually say like, hey, you can spend 1 million gold and we'll give you $75 to put that money back into the economy. So it is kind of a money velocity thing, but it's also very, very, very hard. You can't say that every piece of gold that enters into liquid coffers has not been at some point connected to a WoW token. I mean, at this point, I would assume that basically every piece of gold has been connected to a WoW token. I mean, they've been there for years and years and years. But I mean,
it's not generating the gold.
No,
the gold's there already. It's just a different way to pass it around.
Correct. Yeah, and I think that's I guess maybe that's a common misconception. But like for every token that's sold, there is gold that already exists, right? Like, you are transferring gold, and the auction house serves as a medium for that transfer, but there is no gold created or destroyed in that transaction at all. So it's you don't create new gold. It doesn't create inflation. It doesn't affect inflation at all. The only thing it affects is it can affect prices because it does change the monetary velocity, which is like we're not going to get into the velocity of money, but it does. In a way that I don't think people think about. Tokens is paying someone else to farm you the gold. Yes, essentially. That is basically the transaction you're making. I don't know if it destroys the game. So what about missives?
It's right in the line. I think that they could have gone full weird pay to win, and they have not, which is great.
No, I mean,
I'm saying they could have. Like,
if you think it's not creating gold, you're delusional. I think you may not know what's going on, actually.
Everyone thinks there's like shadowy ulterior, like...
Yeah, no. Liquid spent $50 billion buying WoW tokens for our guild to have infinite gold. It couldn't be that we just spent 7 months doing sales. Gold carvers, yeah, exactly. It's I don't know why I've made this comparison like 6 times during this race, but it's not that I'm a particular fan of Steve Jobs, but he very, very poignantly pointed out in the early 2000s, you know, when there was like you're in the Rhapsody, Napster kind of era of music piracy, that piracy, or maybe it's like a CEO of Netflix. I thought it was Steve Jobs. It was somebody though. Somebody smart said that, you know, piracy is fundamentally an issue of delivery, not of a customer's unwillingness to pay. And, you know, really there's a demand to buy gold with real money that exists regardless of what Blizzard does about it. And all they do with a WoW token is edge those people out of the market. Those transactions, for the most part, are going to be happening anyway. They just happen illicitly. So it's kind of like legalizing, you know, when people like argue about like legalizing like hard drugs, it's the same thing, you know, which I'm not advocating for at all or anything, but that is just a, you know, instead of having something be illegal and be on the fringes, you legalize it so that it can be regulated. It's regulated gold sales.
Yeah, I believe that quote was Gabe Newell. I got a little hint, which makes sense because he kind of erased gaming piracy.
Gabe Newell. Yeah, that's the one. But it's absolutely right. You know, when you look at what Steam did, it's like, dude, I mean, personally, like, not that I've ever pirated a game, but if I did, it probably would have been when I was way younger. And, you know, in an era where every game I wanted wasn't available in a very convenient downloadable fashion, right? Mm-hmm. But in this now new era, all of a sudden, not that I ever have, but I would never pirate a game because everything is so easily accessible. Why, you know, it's like it is almost easier to just buy a game legally and download it than it is to, you know, have to like work through the back channels and you know, go with all the risks having to do with piracy. So it is very, very interesting. This guild gets paid absurd amount of money for carries. Which do you think is more likely? Definitely the latter. Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh yeah, somebody spent $100,000 on a WoW token. And the funny thing is that like, and this is something that I guess hasn't happened in a while, but like at one point the number of WoW tokens was so low, you actually could not buy a token sometimes, you know, like, and people like, man, I feel like people who think you create money actually probably don't know that you know, you can sometimes, when you go to sell a token, you can't actually, like, you have to wait 6 hours for somebody to buy it, right? Like, it's not like it just turns it into 150K. You need a buyer for that sale. Isn't there a limit of 5 tokens a month? I have no idea, actually. I haven't sold them or anything. Boosting an RMT destroyed this game for casuals. I don't use hair conditioner, actually, Bob. But I appreciate it. I'll take it as a compliment for the hair. No, my hair is naturally very thin and dry, so I actually found that using a volumizing shampoo with no conditioner actually makes it look a lot better. Hi, hey, Veyloris. Can you talk about the gold finance organization Liquid? What do you do for BG Heals versus Adine? Oh, good question. At this point, I'm mostly just a bag holder. I don't... Oh. He's got the shoe sponge. Okay, well... Okay, I can talk about WoW economy for a while. I guess I can't hear you guys. Yeah, that was, man. Okay, listen. It's been a rough night. What a shot, actually. Yeah, I got. In case you can't appreciate, this is the shoosh sponge. I said that they would never need it, but I can't hear them in my ear. This, my friends, is a lie. I couldn't hear them the whole time. You fools. So they have the shoosh sponge, which they had ready because, not that I'm known for talking, but you know what it is. I don't want to hit the camera. He caught it. Why live, honestly? Well, my tattoo is holding up great, and this was the After Dark show. I'm glad people enjoyed talking about the economy. I know I did. I like talking about gold, and I'm glad that you actually...
informative.
Yeah, no, it's I'm always happy to talk about it. I love talking about
I didn't
about
have
it.
much to add, but I had a lot to gain.
Well, that's all I can
I
ask
was
for.
the viewers, the conduit for the viewers.
You know what? That's perfect. That's all we need in life. Anyway, this has been the After Dark Show. We have a charity sponsor, tl.gg/UN. Oh, what is it?
UNHCR.
Yeah, UNHCR.
UNHCR.
tl.gg/UNHCR. That is the United Nations Refugee Foundation supporting humanitarian efforts in the Ukraine, which is obviously very important. So head over there and you can drop a donation and feel very good about yourself for supporting such an important thing. And thank you for joining us on the night show here. How far has everybody gotten? We got into it down 5% more, which is great. I'm Veyloris.
Hey, I'm Kams. Make money, baby.
Yeah, get that bread. That's it. I can't hear anything.
Play this up right.